Welcome to Python Basics for Hackers V2, new and improved from V1. We're going to add a little more material in V2, material that wasn't in V1. So if you've seen V1, the introductory material, the day one, is probably going to be almost exactly the same, with slight small differences. You might want to scroll through till you get to day two, day three, if you've already gone through day one. Also, if you're familiar with Python, or at least you have some familiar with Python, you might want to skip through day one as well, because this is meant as an introduction to Python and with an application specifically to cybersecurity and hacking. Right? There's a lot of Python courses out there, and the introductory material is going to be almost identical because Python's Python, right? But what we're trying to do is to have a introduction to Python that specifically looks at how you can use Python in cybersecurity. Right? There's lots of ways of using Python. Python's used in a large number of applications, in almost all, nearly all of the cybersecurity tools, not all, but nearly all the cybersecurity tools are in Python. If you're working in Kali, you'll go through those tools and you'll see many, probably 80% are, or maybe even more than 80%, are Python scripts, right? Of course, there are some Perl scripts, there are some Bash scripts, there are some Java applications. So yes, there are other things, but most of your tools are going to be Python scripts. So what we're doing here is that we're trying to go ahead and develop your skills from zero, okay, to cybersecurity hero in 3 short days. Okay, I'm probably going to develop an advanced Python course in the near future. Now that we have enough people have gone through the Python course, we'll do an advanced Python course that will focus just on cybersecurity and hacking. Okay, tools been popping in and out. I got tools in here twice, I think. Yep. So with all of that having been said, let's go ahead and get started. All right, here's our course outline. All right. By the way, this green is for the Python. So we're going to start off with Python basics. All right, that's what primarily we're going to be doing today. We're going to talk about automating some tasks with Python, debugging Python scripts, building. This is where we'll spend a fair amount of our time, is building some cybersecurity and hacking applications with Python. We'll look at Scapy. Okay, Scapy is a module that is really useful to us in a number of applications in cybersecurity. If you're familiar with Wireshark, if you're familiar with Snort, or any of these tools that go ahead and sniff packets off the wire, essentially what they're doing is they're using a library to be able to put the packets into the PCAP format. That's what Scapy does for us in Python. All right, we can go ahead and use Scapy to be able to sniff packets off the wire, put them in a PCAP format, and then once we're in a PCAP format, then we can do all kinds of manipulation on them. All right, and then we're going to build a Wi-Fi scanner last, and if we have more time, we'll do more things than we have here. All right, everything here will be done Kali Linux. Okay, you begin your training in Python by using the Python interactive shell. Open the shell by entering Python 3 in the terminal. So basically, the Python shell is just an interactive shell that allows us to learn and test our syntax in Python. So rather than writing a long script, in say PyCharm or even in a simple text editor, we're going to just write some simple statements in the interactive shell just to see how Python works. By the way, we'll be using primarily any text editor to write our simple scripts. As we get into more advanced scripts, we'll use PyCharm. Okay, PyCharm is a Java app that's probably the best IDE, interactive development environment, for Python. Also note that we're using Python 3, not Python 2. So almost everybody has moved to Python 3. There's some subtle differences between the two, not dramatic differences. Okay, if you have a script that's written in Python 2 and try to run it in Python 3, it'll throw a few errors, and you can usually resolve those pretty easily. All right, let's go and open up. I'm going to be using 2020. Let's go here. You can use whatever one you want. Actually, 2019 is my favorite because you don't have to use sudo. Let's go ahead and let's go. First of all, we're going to go sudo, and then just to point out that Python, if you just put in Python, right, what you end up with is Python 2. You can see Python 2.718, right? And let's see, Control D to get out. There we go. All right, so what we want to do is we're going to go sudo Python 3. All right, you see here it comes up. So you can see that we have both Pythons in Kali. And you're probably going to find that in, yeah, Steve says 2022-1 is out now. Yep, they're always coming out with new ones. And I will say it one more time. And that is, I generally lag behind the latest and greatest for a number of reasons. And I think I've stated those clearly before, in that if something's working for me and I have all my tools, okay, already built into 2020 or 2019, and if there's no compelling reason to move to the latest and greatest, why would I do that? Right? Why would I be the beta tester for a new operating system, right? And have to run into all the problems that have been unresolved. All right. So I'm usually a few years behind before I'll accept a new anything, no matter what it is, whether it be Microsoft Windows or whether it be I'm still running Windows 10. So, and a number of other old things. If they work, why change? Okay, if they work, why change? Especially if you're in a penetration testing environment, right? Penetration testing environment. You're going into somebody else's environment, right? And they're paying you good money, okay, to get a job done, oftentimes by the hour. Are you going to be running a brand new operating system that has unknown problems with it? Hopefully you're going to be using one that you're familiar with and you've used a while. All right. So, anyways, that's my little spiel on using the latest and greatest. This is 2020. I actually really like 2019 probably best right now. What we can do here, once we're in the interactive shell, is first of all, what we want to do is to begin to create some expressions and see how what they call the idle, okay, actually works. So we can go ahead and put in expressions like 2 plus 2 and hit enter, right? And there's a number of different, just like any programming language. Okay, let me go back here and just kind of show you that there's a number of math operators in Python. There's addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. All right. Of course, there's a number of others. There's the exponent. There's modulus. All right. There's that we can also use. Let's try out using all of those just to make sure we know how things work, right? So let's try using, say 2 plus 3. Hit enter, we get 5, right? We can, just like in any programming language, we can go ahead and use the parentheses to affect the order of operations. Whoa, 2 plus 3, okay, order of operations, so it'll do times, say, 6, right? And if we had put the parentheses, ordered them differently, we would get a different result, right? So this says do 2 plus 3 first, all right? And you get 2 plus 3, you get 5, multiplied by 6. This says go ahead and do 3 times 6, okay? Get 18, and then add 2 to it, all right? So for most of you, this is going to be, very familiar territory. We can also do multiplication. All right, it's nice to have something that can do those numbers that quickly. We can also do division, right? We can do the, say, the modulus. Right, so modulus is the remainder. So this is 23 divided by 7 with a leftover or remainder of 2. Right, that's what the modulus is. Spacing doesn't make any difference. Right, so I can put all these spaces in, and it's still going to, whoa, what did I do wrong there? Just trying to, 2 plus, I might have hit the tab key there. That's by mistake. Okay. And then let's try 2. There we go. Yeah, I must have hit the tab key there by mistake. Indentation or unexpected indent. One of the things that we'll point out later on in class as we get into writing our scripts is indentation is really important in Python. Okay, indentation is the way that we set off a block of code. Right? So we set off a block of code by indenting it. So indentations are really important. In some languages, it doesn't make any difference, but in Python, it makes a huge difference. And the code will read very differently based upon indentation. All right, let's do a couple more here. Let's say 5 minus 1 times, let's see, 7 plus 1 divided by 3 minus 1. All right, so let's read what this says here. So order of operation, right? It's going to be 5 minus 1. It's going to be 4. Here we're going to have 8 divided by 2. And the answer is 16. All right, good. So you can go ahead and play around a little bit with the what they call the idle. So Python calls the idle of and try out various expressions to see what it is able to evaluate to. There's also, like other programming languages, is something that's you're going to find no matter what programming language it is. There's different types of variables. Okay, and for instance, we can work with integers, we can work with floating point, and we can work with string data types. It's just a few. different types of data. So integers are obviously, whole numbers, both negative and positive. Floating point have a decimal place, and strings are basically letters, numbers. So we're representing the literal, all right, of a number of characters. That's probably the better word for it. We just want those characters represented. Whether it be a number, okay, we can have a string number, right? We have the number 1 and represent as a string, okay? Or we can have the word one, O-N-E, all right? They both can be strings. So when we work with strings, okay, we use a single quotation mark, right? And of course, any programming language has to start off with a hello world. All right. If I failed, for instance, if I failed to close the second quotation mark, I get a syntax error. Okay. It's scanning a string literal. All right. It didn't get the second quotation mark, throws an error. Same thing would happen. Okay. If I left off the first one. Okay. So there's various types of data that we can work with, and as we go through the class, we'll go through more. But the most important different types here are numbers and strings. All right. Once again, no different than any other programming language, right? But I'm not assuming that you have had other programming languages. All right. So let's go then talk about string concatenation. Okay. Steve says, can you print with a new line? Steve, we'll get to that, okay? And you're moving ahead, all right? So let's go ahead and talk about string concatenation. What we're gonna do is concatenation is a programming language. It's used in programming languages to be able to take various strings and put them together. That's what concatenation. Have you ever wondered where that word cat in Linux comes from? It comes from concatenation, which is what we're going to be doing next. Also, it probably will work a little better if I zoom in here so you can see. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see the text a little better. All right, it's a little bit larger now. So let's go ahead and look at some concatenation. Basically, in Python, this is typical in a lot of programming languages as well. It uses a plus for concatenation, so that if we wanted to go ahead and put two words together, all right, into a single string, we could go, Alice. Of course, there's always Alice and Bob, right? Alice and Bob. These guys are together all the time. Alice plus Bob. I keep on hitting the double quotation by mistake. Okay, single quote. And we get Alice Bob. Now, you can see that's not very human readable, right? And you end up with Alice Bob. So generally when you're trying to put these two together, you'll try to put a space. You could do this, all right? Up arrow, and I could go ahead and put in a space like this. All right, and then you get Alice Bob. But it's probably simpler to just go ahead and put in a space before Bob or after Alice. So if you're trying to get something that's human readable, you're concatenating, you can do either one of those two. I tend to, depending upon the situation, but I tend to do the second one because it saves some typing, right? Just a little simpler. If I try to go ahead and say concatenate Alice to say 56, okay, it'll throw an error message. can only concatenate string, not int to string, okay? But we can resolve that, okay? We'll see that a little later on, all right, where we can actually convert. We have a function that'll convert numbers into strings, all right? Let's see, what else do we want to do here? Let's work a little bit with variables. All right. So variables are just a place that holds a value. So a variable can hold a number, it can hold a string. All right. So what we're going to be doing is working with some variables, some simple variables. So we can go ahead and from the interactive shell, we can say, oh, let's see, what are we going to call this? One's called variable. Okay, variable. Okay, is equal to 34. All right, and then we're going to go variable. And when we invoke the variable, okay, it comes back with 34. So we have, whenever we go ahead and use this variable name, okay, it's going to always come back with the number 34. Let's put another variable. Let's call it the variable 2. All right. And we're going to, inside variable 2, we're going to go ahead and put in the number 3. Okay. Now we can go ahead and invoke both of these variables, and we can put them into an expression. All right. So we can go variable, this variable, it's not variable 1, okay, plus, okay, variable 2. And you can see we just went ahead and added those two together. So variable 1 has 34 in it, variable 2 has 3 in it. We add them together and we get 37. Okay. Let's see. What else do we want to do here before we get started? Okay. Oh, we want to talk about variable names. All right. You see, I just used, it's probably not a good idea to use the word variable in the name of your variable. All right. I just use that for demonstration purposes. You should put something in there that helps you remember what it is, what's supposed to be in there. Right. So you might put in, let's create a variable, so number of Python attendees. All right. Oh, spell it right. Attendees. All right. And that's going to be, in this case, we have what? 8 people. All right. And then when I want to go ahead and invoke that, I get 8. All right. So when we create our variables, okay, it can be only one word. It can only be letters, numbers, and the underscore. So let's go ahead and let's try using some of those. All right. So here's our number of attendees. We could go ahead and use underscores. Okay. Number of Python attendees. And we'll put 7. Okay. And then let's go ahead and invoke that. You can see that comes up with 7. Okay. So underscores are fine. It can only be letters. It could be numbers too. Okay, so let's go create one with numbers. Python V2 attendees. So we got a number in there. And we're going to put in 23. And then invoke that. 23. And it cannot begin with a number. All right, so what happens if we go ahead and do, let's go ahead and change this to 2. Okay, syntax error, invalid syntax. Okay, you cannot start a variable with a number. Okay, but you can put numbers anywhere else in it, but just not at the start. Okay. Also, Python is case sensitive, so variable names are case sensitive, so that something like Python attendees, okay, is different variable from Python attendees, Python v2 attendees. Let's put a number in there, and then we can invoke that. Oops. Okay, Python v2, yeah, lowercase is 11. All right, the uppercase is 23. All right, 2 different variables. Okay. Let's see, what else do we want to cover here in this very first section? Let's go, let's create a very simple program. All right. Also, we want to introduce the concept of a comment. Let's go back to our presentation and just talk a little bit about some of these things if you're not familiar with them. If you've done any other programming language, you are familiar with them. So we talked about the math operators. We could throw in the modulus and exponents in here too. Exponents are going to be, we didn't do any exponents. Let's go ahead and just do that in the interactive shell. All right, so let's go 3, dot, dot, 3. Okay, that's 3 to the 3rd. All right, 3 cubed. Steve says, if a variable is a reserved memory location to store values, can you tell Python which part of the memory to store the value? The answer to that is no, Steve. Okay. Steve says, as a variable is a reserved memory location to store values, can you tell Python which part of memory to store the value? So I think what you're asking, Steve, is can I tell it physically where to store the value? Is that what your question is? Where in RAM? Okay, what bytes in RAM do I want to store it? No. Okay, that's left to the interpreter and the operating system to do. All right, back to our presentation. So we looked at modulus and we looked at exponents. Okay. So data types, we talked about those: integers, floating point, strings. Strings must be surrounded by the single quotation mark. String concatenation. All right, we did that. A variable is a memory area where you store values. The memory area has an assigned name or label, such as password. You assign the values to the variable, such as passwords equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Very secure password. The first time you use a variable, it's initialized. Okay. After that, you can use it in your code. Some programming languages require that you initialize a variable before you use it. In Python, first time you use the variable, it's initialized. You can change the value of the variable or overwrite its value by simply using another assignment statement, such as passwords equal to QWERTY. Let's go ahead and do that. So let's see, we have Python v2 attendees are here. Let's go an up arrow. We know that it has 23 in it. Let's go ahead and change it to 30. All right, and then go ahead and invoke it again. And so the same variable now has a different value in it. Once again, not that different, I would say identical to other programming languages, but I'm not assuming you've worked in other programming languages here. This is designed to be an intro to Python. So just a little bit of variable names we talked about. All variable names are case sensitive, just like in Linux, right? So you can go ahead and download and open Kate or any text editor, okay? What we're gonna do is we're gonna create some simple programs here. Depending upon what version you have of Kali, you're gonna have different text editors. Of course, you can use VI as well, or Vim. I think that this version of this is 2023 has Mousepad. Okay, it doesn't matter. You could use LeafPad, you could use Kate, you could use anything. Okay, you get something that looks like this. All right. One of the things we haven't talked about is the idea of a comment. Like other programming languages, you may want to, no, you should, you may want to, but you should go ahead and put in some notes as to what you're doing. Right? That's good for you, and it's good for whoever comes after you. You know, very often I'll be writing some code, and I'll come back to it, you know, just a few months later, 6 months later, and go, what the heck was I doing with this? What was I doing here? What was I thinking? Right? You know, and so what the comment does is it gives you a note. It says, okay, this is what this is supposed to be. This is what I'm trying to do here, right? And we can go ahead and comment, okay, with the pound sign, right? All right, so this is going to write a little program. So this is my first Python program. Woohoo! All right. And we're going to use a function called print. All right. And print is going to go ahead and say, hello, hackers, arise. We're skipping the hello world. We already did hello world. That's old hat now. We're moving on. Let's put an exclamation point so they know that we're happy to see them. All right. And then we're going to go print. Put in a single quote. What is your name? Put a question mark. Close it. And let's put a little note in here and say, we are asking for the user's name. Now, we could put that in a separate line, or we can put it on the same line. Either way, it'll work, okay? So now that we've asked them what their name is, we can then go ahead and create a variable called my name, all right? And then take the input, keyboard input, all right? So my name, keyboard input, okay? Let's go ahead and put a comment in there, okay? This accepts the keyboard input from the user, and puts it into a variable called my name. Okay. So it's a pretty simple program. Let's keep on going. Print another statement. Okay. It's, oh, let's not put in the quotation mark there. Just, that will create problems. So we're just going to use it's without a quotation mark. It's may not be proper grammar, but we're going to use it anyways. good. We'll get to escaping special characters later on. It's good to meet you. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and put in, notice that we're leaving a space there, just make it human readable. All right. And then concatenate the variable my name. Okay. Now, once again, it's going to be case sensitive. Let's see if I've got that right. It's good to meet you. All right. Space, single quotation mark, and then concatenate my name. Okay. We're putting in this space there. Okay. And Steve asks, is the word input a special word? Yeah, it's a function, Steve. And we'll get to functions. All right. But it's a function that takes the input from the keyboard here. Okay. So the word input is a reserved word, a keyword. It represents, in this case, a function. So that's a good question. I should have explained that, but yeah, right here, this is a function that captures the keyboard input. All right. So we're just trying to demonstrate. Let's put a little note in here. Okay. So it's a greeting to the user using their keyboard input. Okay. Moving on. Okay. Use another print statement. Print. Okay. In this case, what we're going to do is use another function. So this right here is a function, right? The input's a function. And we'll do more with functions later today or tomorrow, but these are basically small programs that are written within the language that you can call. Of course, you can create your own functions, and we'll get to doing that as well. We're going to create our own functions, but these are ones that are built in. So there's a number of built-in functions, and we'll review that later today. But just to write our simple script here, we're using some very simple functions, and we'll look more at functions later on in class. So let's go, we'll use another function here, okay? The length of your name, all right, is, and single quotation, all right? And then we're going to use the length function. So we're going to go print. And the length function looks like this, all right? My name. And all it does is it grabs the length, number of characters, okay, in that particular string. Let's go ahead. Let's leave it right there. We could keep on going on, okay? And let's see. Let's go ahead and put a little note in here. Let's put a note right here. This prints the number of characters in the user's name. Okay. Let's make sure our syntax looks good. All right, let's go ahead and save it. And we'll call it, you can either end the names of your scripts with sh, which is generally used for bash scripts, but sometimes people use them for Python scripts as well. Or you can end it in py, or you can end it in nothing at all. Okay, the extension can be py, sh, or no extension at all. So we'll go my first script. Okay, that's fine. This is fine. Okay, this is fine. Okay, but since we're working in Python, let's just put it with an extension of py. All right, that way the system doesn't make any difference to, but for us, we'll know that this is one of our Python scripts. All right, so let's go ahead and save it. All right, and look at what Mousepad has done. Some of the text editors will do this, some of them will not. But now that I put the py on the end, the text editor says, oh, this is a Python script. So it goes ahead now and color codes the script. All right, and it's gone ahead and taken our print statements and put them in red. Okay, our variable names are in black. Our functions are in blue. Okay, all of our comments are in blue as well. And this kind of helps you to read and debug your programs. All right. So it saves it in home Kali my first script py. All right. Let's go ahead and open up a terminal and do an ls-l. And what was it? My first script is what I called it. So my first script. Okay. Right there. Important for you to note that we don't have any execute privileges on it. All right? Nobody has any execute privileges on it. So the thing we have to do to be able to execute it, well, let's go ahead and try to execute it. We can go my first, I didn't call it Python script, did I? My first script, py, it comes back and says permission denied. Excuse me. So what we need to do is we need to give ourselves execute permission. So we go sudo change mod, okay, 755, okay. Now, the important point here is that you give it execute permission. So it has to be an odd number. Okay, I typically, just start off with a 755, which means 7 is all the permissions for the owners, 7, right? And then 5 would be for the group, okay, would have both read and execute, and then the everyone else would have read and execute. Okay, so my first script, right? py. If I don't put the py on the end, it won't work. All right. All right, there we go. So now when we go ls-l, you should see, first of all, it has turned into a, what color would you call that? Teal, okay? It's turned into a teal color, and you can see that I have the X permission right there, X permission right there, X permission right there. Since I'm the owner, this is the one that really matters, okay? I very well could do a 700, right? Or 500. As long as it's an odd number, it's going to give me the execute permission. All right. Now we're going to keep our fingers crossed that I didn't make any syntax errors and try to execute, okay, my first script. If we did make syntax errors, we'll resolve that, okay? My first script. And we did, okay? Says on line 3, syntax error near unexpected token. Let's take a look. I must have left put some stray mark in there. Line 3. Okay. Hello, hackers, arise. Now this is where you can use your. Let's go here, and we don't have the. We should open up a. So we've got a problem with that line. Okay. Says Steve asks, should you not use Python the py file? Steve, I'm not sure I understand your question. So are you asking this? Should I go ahead and initiate it with Python like this? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Now, the reason that it works now, okay, is the difference between the way Python 2. So by default, your system, so here we go, we're executing this. It's going to go and run it through Python, but it's going to run it through Python 2, right? By default. It will only run it through Python 3 if you open up your statement with Python 3. So you're saying, hey, I want to go through Python 3. All right. The other thing you can do is you can go ahead and tell the interpreter in your script what interpreter to use. But here we're explicitly saying use Python 3. And one of the key differences between Python 2 and Python 3 is the way that it uses quotation marks. And that's what was throwing the error. So now we've told it, that we want to use Python 3, it works. Okay. Okay, what's your name? Okay, I'm going to go put my name in. It's good to meet you, Occupy the Web. Length of your name is 12 letters. Okay, we got it to work. Woohoo! Nice. Our first script successfully works. All right. So in this section, we introduced the print statement. These are print statements, and we introduced the functions, okay, of input. We introduced comments, and we use the length function there. Okay. Let's see if we can add let's add a little bit more to it. Okay. So we've got the concatenation here. That's good. And we've got the statement that tells us how long the user's name is. One of the things that I mentioned earlier is that we can convert inputs, we can convert strings, okay, and we convert numbers into strings. We can convert both directions, okay? So let's go ahead and put a print statement in here. It says, not uppercase, lowercase, print, let's see. What is your age? Okay, let's add that. And then we'll go, my age is equal to input. Okay. And then we'll go another print statement, print, once again, lowercase p, print. Let's see, what are we going to put in here? Let's put in the user's name. Okay, say my name. My name, then concatenate it. Okay, is my age. years old. Okay, so we got to go ahead and let's fix this. It should be an uppercase A there, and then we're going to says my name is, and then we're going to have to concatenate again, right? And concatenate here. So now what we have is my name is blank, or my age, number years old, and we don't have any spaces in here, so that's not going to be very humanly readable. So we should probably add a few spaces in, like this here. All right, like that. So now what we'll have is we'll have a space after the is. Actually, we should have a space here too, right? Because the name, okay, space is space my age, okay, plus and a space years old. All right. Let's go ahead and try running this one. Let's save it. All right. Same thing. We'll try running the same first script, just a little enhanced first script now. And it comes back with an error message. What is your age? Okay. So it says end of line while scanning string literal. All right. So it was. Oh, I can see that we forgot to put in a single quotation mark there. All right, that's the problem. It came to the end of the line, there was no single quotation mark, so let's go ahead and put that in. What's your age right there? All right, we're debugging on the fly. Okay, let's go ahead and save it again. Let's try running it again. And it says, okay, line 19. Okay, now this was a really cryptic message. I'm hearing somebody's mic's on. Who's? All right, we got 9 people here. So it comes back with this error message, unexpected end of file while parsing. It's line 19. Let's go look at line 19. All right. And the problem I think we're seeing here is one, I didn't put in the parenthesis. That has to happen, right? And let's go ahead and fix that and save it and try running it again. Okay, there it is. Occupy the web. Okay. And what is your age? Line 18. Here's what it gives us. My name is, okay, it says can only concatenate strings. Okay. So we're trying to use that age variable. It's not going to allow us to do it. Also, did we have an input there? Yeah, the input has to have, the function has to be like that, right? Let's save it again. We have to put the parens in a function. Let's run it again. Okay, what's your name? Occupy the web. Okay, what's your age? 42. Okay, there we go. Occupy the web is 42 years old. All right. So continue to move on and continue to expand our initial scripts. We'll add more features as we go. Okay. Let's go back to our presentation and add some more features. This program prompts the user for the name. This is what we just got done doing. We did a little different than here. Okay. We create a slightly different script. Comments, the interpreter ignores everything in the comment section, okay? So that's what we did. We put in some notes there to help us remember what we're doing, what we're supposed to be doing. So the interpreter will skip everything after that pound sign. It's usually used to document the program. When a line starts with a pound, everything after it's ignored. Can also be used to debug code. So the point here is that sometimes if you're throwing an error in a particular line, you can simply comment out the line and see what happens. See if it's, if you take that line out, what happens. I often will use comments to debug code. We use the print. The print function displays the string values inside the parens. We use that. The value inside the parens is called the argument. All right. String values must be enclosed with single quotes. Input's another function. The input function waits for the user's keyboard input. That's what we did. Used with a variable to place the keyboard into. The length function evaluates the number of characters in the string. Okay. So some of the other functions, we can have string, okay, converts the numbers to strings. So if we had a number, we want to put it into a string, we could go ahead and do that. Int converts to an integer, and float converts to a floating point. Flow control. Flow control is really one of the keys in being able to have your code make some decisions as to, so if something evaluates to true or not, or evaluates to a particular value or not, we can make decisions within our code as to whether or not we want to go this direction or that direction. So if password, okay, is equal to whatever the password happens to be, then grant them entry. If password does not equal the value, then do not grant them entry into the program. So this is where we can make decisions in an algorithm, okay, about what direction we want to go, in terms of what we want to execute. So we can have separate code that says, if the value is this, do this. If the value is this, then do this. All right. So flow control is one of the key elements in any programming language, and in general, these flow control structures are similar in almost every programming language. Okay, it enables you to repeat instructions, skip instructions, or choose one of many instructions to run. All right, so basic flow control. You start. Okay, is it raining? Yes. Have an umbrella? No. Wait a while. If it's no, go outside. Okay. Have an umbrella? Yes. Go outside. Okay. No, wait a while. And if it's yes, is it raining? Go ahead and check raining again. No, go outside. And so it's just a series of decisions, okay, where you're testing a value. In this case, the value here, the first value we're testing for is it raining? If it is raining, then the next step is go check to see if there's an umbrella. If there's no umbrella, wait. If there is an umbrella, then you go outside. All right. So these are different decision points in the flow of a program. All right. In many flow control statements, we use Boolean values. So those of you who aren't familiar with this term, it's named after a 19th century mathematician by the name of George Boole, Boole. And it's basically values that have either a true or false. Right? And, in our computer architecture, right, everything is either 0 or 1. So same applies here. That's why Boolean values have become so important in computing, is that we work with systems where everything is a 0 or a 1. All right. So Boolean values have two values, either true, okay, or false. Okay. Truth is true and a lie is false. So here's some comparison operators that we can use in developing our flow control. This is the equal, meaning is equal to. All right. Notice that when we had done our mathematical operators, right? When we had done our assignment, I'm sorry, we had done our assignments in the IDE, we had used a single equal. Okay. Equal is equal to. Not equal to is the exclamation point, the negation symbol, and equal, the greater than, the less than. Okay. The greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. We can use all of those. So this is what I was pointing out just a moment ago. Okay, the single equal is the assignment operator. So that's what we're doing, is we're putting a value into an operator, into a variable. The equal is the equal operator. So when doing mathematics, we're saying, okay, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. That's what this is. Okay, this is an equal. Truth tables, okay, if you haven't seen these before, you probably should be familiar with them. All right, here's the truth table for a not. Okay, so if we have x, right, and we have a 0 and a 1, all right, not x is basically just the opposite, right? That's pretty simple. In the and, we have a 0 and a 0, and we and them, it becomes a 0. If we have a 0 and a 1, it's a 0. If we have a 1 and a 0, it's a 0. And if it's 1 and a 1, it's equal to 1. Okay? In the or truth table, 0, if x and y are 0, then we get 0. If the x and y is x is 0 and y is 1, we get 1. If 1 and 0, we get 1. So to read this is like 0 or 0, okay, is 0. 0 or 1 is equal to 1. So we've an or statement says either one of them are true. If either of them are true, then it's true. Okay. If either of these are true, or, okay, so or is, if either are true, then it's true. If either of them are true, it's true. Okay. That's what the or table shows us. Okay. The and table says that both of them must be true, okay, to be true. And that only time that occurs is right here. Okay, they're both of them are true, then it's true. In the XOR, okay, we have it's exclusive or. We have 0, 0 is equal to 0. 0 and 1, X or 1 is 1. Okay, 1 or 0 is 1. And then we have 1 and 1 is equal to 0. Okay, so if they're different, okay, then it's 1. If they're the same, it's 0. All right. There's a little tutorial on Hackers Arise and truth tables and XORs. Okay. Boolean expressions are all conditions. Okay. Conditions always evaluate to true or false. Flow control decides what to do when the condition is true or false. So it says, okay, if it's true, do this. If it's false, do this. Once again, something that you'll find in just about any programming language. Okay. Blocks of code. All right. Python code can be grouped into blocks, just like any programming language. Indentation determines the block. That's one of the things that makes Python different than other code. Okay. So rules, so anything that is indented the same, okay, is going to be a single block. Okay. Blocks begin with an indentation. Blocks can have blocks within blocks, right? So you can indent and then indent again. Blocks end when the indentation ends, right? So other programming languages use different ways of denoting a block of code. Python uses these blocks, and typically it doesn't matter, okay, how many spaces or tabs there are in a block, but typically, okay, the best practices are 4 spaces per block, okay, 4 spaces and indentation. So some of the flow control statements include if, else, elif, and while. We can also use a break, okay? So a break is when the code leaves because of an error message, an exception is thrown, okay? So you can break out of the code. You can also have continue and a for. Importing modules, all Python programs call a basic set of built-in functions, okay? We've looked at a couple of them. Python also comes with a set of modules called a standard library. Before you can use the functions of a module, you have to import it. Okay. To import a module, you must use the keyword import, the name of the module, more module names if you choose separated by comments, so you can go ahead and import a bunch of other modules by just putting comments over them. Probably the most common one we will use in our code is import socket. Okay. A socket is basically a TCP connection to another system. All right. That's what socket does for us. Okay. We're going to talk about some more structures, data structures in Python. In many programming and scripting languages, we have arrays. Arrays are great for starting a list of objects. Okay. Arrays are a list of various values that we can retrieve by referencing a particular value in the array by its position. Okay, these are called lists in Python. So, for instance, if we wanted the third value in the array, we could use it by array 2. Okay, so the third value would be array 2. Why? Because the first value is 0. Right? The first one is 0. We start counting with 0. Python works similarly, but this functionality is called a list. Okay, lists in Python are referred to as being iterable. This means that the list can provide successive elements when we use a looping structure like a for statement. Okay, lists also have methods that can manipulate the values. Some of the most valuable methods are append. Okay, so we want to go ahead and put a value on, append a value. Count gets the number of X in the list. Index, insert, pop, returns and removes the last element. Remove removes the first X element. Reverse reverses the elements. And of course, sort sorts the elements. All right. So these are lists. So if we're adding element to a list, we can go and if the list was called lists, okay. So this is simply, we don't use the word list, we use the name of the list. Okay, list dot append and then the value. List dot insert the location and the value. Okay. And then reversing a list, we simply can go list reverse. Okay. So tuples, let's talk about tuples and then we'll take a little break. Okay. A tuple is like a list, except the size cannot change and it cannot add more elements than originally specified. Okay. Parentheses delimit a tuple. Missed the L there. If you try to modify a tuple, it throws an error. So for instance, we can create our tuple is equal to Audi, BMW, no separated by commas, BMW, Lexus, Ferrari. And then if we went ahead and said tuple 3, okay, it should actually be the Ferrari, right? 0, 1, 2, 3. Should be Ferrari there. All right, let's go ahead and take a little break, and we'll start using some of these data structures in some scripts. So we're off for 15 minutes. I got 13 minutes after the hour. We'll come back at 28 minutes after the hour. and start using some of these data structures and write some more advanced scripts than what we've been using. See you then. Okay, hopefully you had enough time to do what you have to do on our break. And now we're going to cover one more data structure, all right? And then we'll go ahead and write some more scripts to kind of demonstrate, one, the data structures and the control structures, okay? So one more data structure I want to cover here are dictionaries, right? Dictionaries are probably the most important data structure in Python. It allows us to associate values with keys. The value can be accessed using the indexing operator. Okay, so for instance, okay, we could create a dictionary called services, and then we could essentially associate the string FTP with 21, which port number, SSH with 22. Notice that there's a colon between them. SMTP with 25, HTTP with 80. Cannot use the same key to create multiple values, right? And then just one more thing, and then we'll get on to doing some more scripting. Okay, networking in Python. To create a network connection in Python, you need to use the socket module. We learned in previous Python tutorials that Python comes with a library of modules for a multitude of tasks, okay? In this case, you'll need the socket module to create a TCP connection, okay? All right, and then we'll talk more about some of the functions, but there's many, many functions in Python. Let's go ahead and go back to our Kali or whatever system you're using. All right. You can run Python, by the way, in Linux, I mean in Windows as well, if you want. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new script. This one's just going to be a data structures. All right. We're going to work on some data structures here. We're going to go ahead and go new. All right. And just to demonstrate some data structures, we're going to write a simple script to demonstrate that. All right. One of the things that we haven't done yet is the idea of starting off our script with a shebang, okay, which tells us what interpreter to use for this script. And notice that in the last one we didn't use it, but we told the system to use Python 3 when we ran it. Here we can actually embed it into the program. Okay, what interpreter we want to use? Not interpreter, but interpreter. All right. So we're going to go ahead and create some data structures here, and then invoke those data structures and print them off just to demonstrate them. All right. So we've worked with some strings, but we'll go ahead and put those in as well. String variable, hackers arise string variable, and we'll say Python basics for hackers. All right, that's a string hackers, spell hackers right. All right, that's a string variable. All right, then we'll create an integer variable. Hackers arise integer. Just demonstrating each of the types of data. Hackers arise. Let's keep the dash out of there. Let's go floating point on this one. Oh, let's use 3.1415 blah 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 to represent pi. We'll just use 4 decimal places. Okay, now a new one. We're going to do a list. Okay, hackers arise list. We just learned about lists just a minute ago, and what we're going to do is we're going to go and create a list using No, just a number of values. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. And then let's create a Hackers Arise. Oh, we just learned about dictionaries. And let's see. Let's use a different. Let's go with let's use some cars here. All right. Let's go BMW. All right. I'm sure you guys are familiar in driving these. All right. Let's put in an X6. All right. That's a pretty car. And we'll go Mercedes, then the colon, and we'll put in GLC 300 is a small Mercedes. And let's go Tesla. I've got to put make sure I get my single quotes around it. And let's see what Model X. Let's make that a capital M. And single quotes, not double. And let's go, let's go Lexus. Once again, single quotes around Lexus, which are all luxury brand cars. And let's go, RX 350, probably the most popular of the Lexus SUVs. And we should put in curly braces around it. Okay, so we've got our various data structures here. Now, let's go ahead and print them. Okay, so print. So we can see what they actually look like. Okay, we're going to go Hackers Arise string variable. Actually, I could just copy and paste, make it a little simpler. Print. Let's go integer variable. And let's go print. In this case, okay, now we got the integer. Let's go with the floating point. And now we get our list in a dictionary. All right, so let's print. We want the list. Now, when we do a list, we have to go ahead and tell it give it an index of what element on the list we want to print. All right, so let's go ahead and put in, let's put in 3. All right, okay. Now, let's go ahead and save that. And we'll call it, let's call it data structures. Data structures script. py. Okay. And as soon as we do put py in the end, our text editor immediately color codes it, and that helps us to find any potential syntax problems here. So let's go ahead and look at it quickly and see if we see any syntax problems. Looks good. Okay. Let's go ahead and see if we can run it. So first of all, we're going to have to go ahead and give ourselves execute permission. So once again, let's go just take a quick look at it. This is data structures right here. Notice we don't have any execute permission. So let's go ahead and do that. Go sudo change mod. Now, I always put in 755, but you can put in anything. You can put in 555 as long as it's an odd number, because the execute bit is always a 1, and the read and write bits are both 2 and 4, so they're always even. So as long as it's an odd number, you should give yourself execute permissions. And this is going to be data structures script py and password. And we now should have, let's go take a look, make sure that we have there it is. It's turned this teal color, and we have execute permissions on it. Okay, let's go ahead and run this script. We'll go Python 3 data structures script py. Let's give it like that. And as you can see, what happens here now is that we've got Python. Here's our string, here's our integer, here's our floating point, and then important point here really is this right here, the number 4. Let's go back and look at our script. Okay, we can see the Hackers Arise list is asking for the 3rd element. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3. Not the number 3 element is probably a better way to put it. Okay, and it lists as 4. So you got to make sure that you always start counting with 0. The very first element is going to be 0. All right. Also, just a quick rundown. I'm going to show you some of the other functions in Python. Absolute numbers, you can use ASCII. Just quickly, just going to run through some of the functions that are available to us. Boolean, dictionary. This creates a new dictionary. Help, of course. Hash, max, min, hex, round. We use length, right? Sum. Let's see, what other ones are good? Those are probably the most common ones you're going to use. All right, so these are other built-in functions. The ASCII is going to go ahead and returns a string containing the printable representation of the object. Okay, the printable representation. All right, so now let's go ahead and create a let's see what we're going to do here now. Let's go ahead and open up a now we need to look at some control structures. Let's do that first before we go on. All right. So we'll create a script to capture some. We'll create a TCP server and TCP client in just a minute. But let's go ahead, before we even do that, we haven't talked about how to go ahead and make some decisions within in Python. Let's go ahead and create some simple decisions. Let's go ahead and go Python 3. Okay, there we go. All right. We're going to go, let's see, if, we'll create an if statement. If name, okay, is equal, okay, to OTW, single quotation mark. Let's go ahead, let's write it in a script file. All right, let's go ahead and create a new, and let's go, once again, create a shebang, tell it that it's user bin Python. Let's go ahead and just copy that. All right, so what we're going to do is create a simple decision. If name, all right, is equal to OTW, all right? And then we're going to indent, we're going to create a block of code. Okay, I'm going to put 4 and go print hello OTW, close the quotation, close the parenthesis. Once again, you got to keep the block the same. So if password is equal to, say, password, and then we're going to go ahead and print. Notice that we have a block right here, all right, and then we're creating an inner block within it. This one we're going to go print access to season access granted. Else, so it's a simple if else, all right? There's an implied then, okay? So if password is equal to password, then print access granted. Else, if it's not, then we'll do something else. We got to put in a colon there, and then we have to put in another statement. Print wrong password. It's very simple decision making. All right. If name is equal to OTW, print. Okay. Hello OTW. If the password is equal to password, print access granted. If it's not, print wrong password. All right. Now, what we want to do, okay, here's this quick decision making. We could go ahead and create some variables here. For instance, Chris has a question here. Okay. End of line 5, I have an extra one. End of line 5. You're right. Thank you. Should be a colon there. I think I've got it right now. So let's kind of read through line by line. First of all, this is telling what interpreter to use. And then if the name is equal to OTW, then go ahead and print. Okay. If password is equal to password, then print access granted, else print wrong password. Okay. So very simple decision. Now let's go ahead and prompt the users for that information. All right. So we're going to go, let's create a variable called name. And we're going to go input. And let's go, let's print what is your name. All right, and then the user will go ahead and put in their name, and then let's ask them for what's their password. What is your password? That should be a print statement. Feel free to, as you see me make errors, to point them out to me. All right. And then we're going to have to prompt. We prompted them for their password. Let's go ahead and create a variable called password, and it's going to be input or is equal to password. All right, let's take a look at this now. Let's go ahead and put some comments in. All right. Prompt the user for their name. Okay. Place the name in a variable name. That's here we'll put prompt the user for their password. Here we're gonna place the password in a variable named, what do we call it, password. Okay, let's go ahead and put some spaces in here to make it a little easier to read. Once again, spaces. There's variables spelled wrong, but that doesn't really matter. Okay. Okay, I think we've got it all set. Make sure that these alignment, these blocks are aligned. okay, for your code. Let's go ahead and save it. And we're going to call this first control script py. Okay, first control script py, and it looking good. I think we got all everything. One of the things that you'll see in some of the more advanced IDEs is it'll check your indentation to make sure that everything's aligned properly. I'm not. I got some typos in the comments here. Let's get those fixed. User for their password. All right, looks good. Let's go ahead and run it. Kojo says line 18 is missing. Let's see what it is. Line 18. If name is equal to OTW. There's 18 right there. I'm not sure which. Oh, it's missing a. Thank you. It's missing a colon, as he's saying. Good. Thank you. Yeah. Feel free to, if you pick up something, let me know. All right. Let's try running it. Open up. Let's go sudo change mod 755, and this is what do we call it? First control script. First control script py. Cannot access. No such file. What did I call it? First control script. It must be a space right there, it looks like. Okay. So that's unfortunate. It makes it a little harder to work with, like that. Okay. So now we should be able to execute it. Thank you for that help, Kojo. Now let's go ahead and execute it. And I got to use the double quotation marks to call it first control script py. Okay. Syntax, okay, I got a command not found. Syntax error. What is your name? Unexpected token there, and the print, what is your name? All right, let's take a look at those. So looks like very first line. I reversed the order. Okay, of the shebang. That's the first step. There. And you notice the color coding was off. All right, so it told us that right there. So we fixed that one. Let's go look at the other error messages. Okay, line 5. What is your name? Print. What is your name? I'm not seeing a problem with that statement. Let's look at the other error messages. Line 5, print. What is your name? Both of them are giving me a problem. Does anybody see it? I don't see it. There's something wrong with this line right here. What is your name? Well, let's try running it again and see what error message it throws. No, shouldn't require double. Oh, you know what it is again? All right, it's because Python 3. All right, yeah, Python exactly. It's Python 2 versus Python 3. They handle quotes differently. All right, what did I do with this one? It doesn't like my shebang. Huh. Anybody see the problem? It's coming up with that here. Did I reverse it again? Okay. Let's try saving it. Let's try running it again. Notice we proceeded with Python 3. That's the error message that you're almost, whenever you're running Python 3 with Python 2, you'll always get these error messages that are dealing with double quotations and single quotation marks. All right. It still doesn't like my shebang. We don't need it. Let's take it out. Let's save it. Let's try running it again. Okay, so let's see. It's giving me print access granted on line 21. Just missing a single quotation mark there. All right, there we go. Let's try running it again. Ah, got it. Okay. What is your name? All right, OTW. What's your password? Okay, I'll put in password. Okay, hi OTW, access granted. All right, finally got it to work. That's what we wanted to do. Now let's run it with um, a wrong password. All right, what's your name? OTW. What's your password? Oh, let's just put something random in. Wrong password. All right, so very simple control statement that checks to see whether or not the password is correct. All right, if the password is correct, it grants access to the system. If the password is incorrect, it says wrong password, or it could come out with, credentials are incorrect, whatever you want to put it in. But this is, a very simple control statement using the if statement. Let's go back and take a look at it. All right. So here we go, and here's the if. So here's the conditional statement. If name is equal to OTW, go ahead and print hello. If the password is equal to password, then print access granted, else wrong password. Okay. So very simple. Let's go on and look at some other more complex. Okay. Well, let's look at an else-if statement. All right, which is kind of else-if allows us to embed multiple if-then statements. Okay, let's go ahead and do that one. Let's go create a new one and say if name is equal to OTW. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Print hi. Hi, OTW. And then we'll go if, all right, age is less than 40. Okay. Also, we need, then this if statement, we need a colon at the end of it. Print, let's see. You are obviously not OTW. Close it. Let's go ahead and make sure this is a single quotation mark. Okay. If again, so another else if. Okay. Age is greater than, say, 100. All right. 1, 2, 3. Print. You are in danger in the era of COVID. Anybody's over 70 is in danger during this era. And then let's go if age is greater than 150. Okay. Print. You must be a zombie. All right, let's make sure we got all of our syntax correct. Okay, if name is OTW, print hi OTW. If age is less than 40, you're obviously not. So you are too young to be OTW. If age, got to put a colon at the end there. All right. If age is over 100, you're in danger in the era of COVID. All right. If the age is over 150, all right, print you must be a zombie. All right. Now, so the beauty of the ifs is that you can continue to put in these additional conditions. All right. So if less than 40, if greater than 100, if greater than 150. Now, to make this thing work, we're going to have to go ahead and put in some prompts. All right, let's go ahead and do that. So let's see. We want, first of all, we have name. Okay, name. And we're going to get it from an input. Input. But we're going to have to prompt the user for print. What is your name? Question mark. Single quote. And then input into name. Then we're going to have to prompt for age. Print. What is your age? And then we're going to have to go age and then ask for the input or grab the input. We've already asked them. Input for age. All right. Then let's go ahead and put in some comments to basically help us understand what we're doing here. Okay. We are using the elif statement to use multiple conditions. Okay. And here we're going to go ahead and prompt user for name. Prompt user for age. Okay. Check if user name is OTW. Check if age is under 40. Check if name is over, what is it, 100 here? 100. And then finally, we're going to check if age is over 150. All right. So let's see. Let's go ahead and save it. We'll get it color coded. Get an idea if we have any syntax errors. Let's see. Each of the if statements has to end in a colon. Okay, here's the elif colon, elif colon, elif colon. Okay. We open and close with single quotation marks in each of these print strings. Looks good. Same here. Here we're prompting the user, what is your name? Open with a single quote, close with a single quote. Create a variable, take the input from the keyboard, prompt them for their age. Okay, single quote, age, input. Okay, looks good. Let's go ahead and save it and run it. And we'll call this one our elif script. All right. And let's give ourselves permissions to use it. Okay, sudo change mod 755 elif script. I didn't put a py on the end of that, did I? Let's go ahead and do that. Let's change it and save as py. Okay. And now you can see that it color codes everything. Let's just take a look at the color coding and make sure that everything looks good. Like I said, later on in this class, we will begin using PyCharm, which checks your syntax a lot better than a simple text editor like this does. But at least we have a text editor that is, some text editors don't do any type of color coding. This one here, Mousepad does, Kate does, a few others do as well. An IDE, an interactive development environment, is much more useful in being able to check our syntax. For instance, PyCharm will check to see if your blocks are all aligned. And let's see, what do we have? Looks good. Let's go ahead and try running it. All right. Now let's go ahead and Python 3, all right, and then elif script py. Okay, what's your name? Okay, what's your age? Okay, so what happened here? All right, so let's go back to our script. All right, so if your age is under 40, okay, it's going to throw that message. It wasn't under 40. If it's over 100, it's going to throw this message. If it's over 150, it throws this message. So it doesn't throw any of these messages, okay, because it doesn't meet any of those conditions. But let's run it again, okay, and let's see, what's your name, OTW, and let's go say 27. Ah, all right, we've got an, it should have run that print statement, and it didn't. Let's go and see what happened. All right. If age is under 40, print, you are too young to be OTW. Should have gone right to here. There's got to be an error in our syntax here somewhere. Let's see. Let's see if we can figure it out. I'm just trying to separate each one of the stanzas. All right, if name is okay, then if age is less than 40, okay, you're too young. This is what we should have executed in this statement here. Okay. Let's look at our logic here. If name is equal to OTW, print hi OTW. Okay. It only goes to the if this is not OTW. All right. So as long as it's OTW, it's going to just print the statement and exit. So that's it. It worked perfectly, except what we want to do here is, let's say, put in Mike. Okay, 27. Okay. Line 18. Okay. Okay, it says the greater than not supported between instances of string and an integer. Okay. Did anybody see the problem here? Can anybody diagnose the problem? Anybody see? Let's go back and look at the error message. It says elif line 18 elif age is less than 40. Type error. Okay. The greater than sign not supported between instances of a string and an integer. Yeah. Chris says input of age needs to be converted to an int. Okay. So we can use the int. Okay, right there. Convert it to age to an int using the int function. All right. So now what we've got is we've taken the input and converted it into a integer. Let's go ahead and save it again. And let's try running it again. What's your name? I'll call it Mike. What's your age? 27. You're too young to be OTW. All right. So now we got it working. Let's go ahead and try some different ages. Say Mike is 101. You're in danger in the area of COVID. Okay. Let's go ahead and run 200. Oops. What's your name? Mike. What's your age? 200. Oh, what you're in a danger of in the era of COVID. Okay, so it never got to the third statement. Okay, why? Right? Because 200 is over 100 as well. Right? So we're going to have to change our logic slightly here. All right, let's go back to our script here. So it comes to this one, says, "Oh, you're over 100." All right. Chris asks, can that be done at the initial prompt for the age? Yes, you can convert it initial prompt for the age, or each time you use the age, you can go ahead and convert it into an integer. But let's see. Right now we're working on the logic. Okay, so this one says, so how are we going to fix this? Over 150. Okay. What we could do to make this work is simply change the order of our logic here. So taking this stanza right here, all right, and putting it before this one, because anything that's over 100 is going to go ahead and execute this statement right here. So what we got to do is take this, we're going to copy and then paste it here, all right, and then we can go ahead and delete this. All right, so now let's look at our logic, okay? This one we got to work really well, okay? Then it says check if we're over 150. So if we put in 200 at this point, it'll execute this statement, okay? If I put in 100, it will not execute this. It'll go elif and then go else, okay, to this statement here. So anything between 100 and 150 will execute this statement here. You're in danger in the area of COVID, okay? Let's go ahead and save it again. Let's try running it. So once again, we got to check our logic, okay, when we're writing those elifs. Let's go ahead and run it. All right, we're using Mike again, and Mike is 200 years old. You must be a zombie. Beautiful. All right, works perfectly. Let's go try running it again with a different age. What's your name, Mike? And so you're 101, and you're in danger. So we got it working perfectly. All right, that's exactly what we wanted to do. The important point here is that the order of the condition check is important, okay, if you want to be able to get the proper output, proper results. All right. Let's see. Let's go ahead and create next. Go ahead and create a simple script for basically checking to see whether or not this is we're going to use a module for the first time. And we're going to be able to use, in this case, we're going to use a while statement. We'll be able to check a condition. And let's go ahead and open a new. Let's go new. All right. And so what we're going to do here with this one is, first of all, we're going to import socket. Okay. Socket basically is a module that allows us to make a simple TCP connection. All right. Then we're going to create a few, instantiate a few variables. The first one's going to be TCP IP, and then this case is going to hold the IP address. Now, we know that IP addresses are numbers, right? But in Python, they have to be put into a string, all right? Python will not recognize those, the dot, the 4 octets. So you got to put it into a string. Like that. So that's our IP address. Of course, we could also prompt the user for the IP address. Let's do that. That might be a better way to run this thing. Okay. Let's go ahead and prompt the user. Let's go, I think print statement. We're just kind of doing this on the fly here. Print, what is the IP address you want to connect to? All right, and then we're going to go ahead and create this variable TCP IP, but we're going to fill it in, okay, with input. Next, we're going to prompt the user print what port do you want to connect to? And then we're going to put in a variable called port and take an input for that. Okay, so we've got two variables, TCP IP. We got another port, another one called port. In this case, we're going to also ask for, in this case, we don't prompt the user. We're just going to create a variable called buffer size. And what we're doing is we're trying to create a script that's going to grab, in this case, the banner of at a connection to a remote system. So we're all familiar, I hope, with Shodan. Okay, maybe I should kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about here before I go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and do. Let's go and let's see. I've got another machine here. Let me see. It might be useful if you have another machine as well. I got the OWASP BWA here. Make sure I can connect to it and kind of demonstrate what we're going to be doing, but doing it manually. Let's go if config on it. Yeah, it's 168, 192, 168, 100, 102. Okay. And this one is 106. Okay, let's go see if I can ping that machine. Ping 192, 168, 100. Was it 102? Was that what it was? $100, 102. Right. All right. See if we can ping it. Yep. Nope. Can't ping it. All right, let's go and check the connection on that system. And let's go here. There we go. Connected. I got a separate NAD network called Hackers Arise. Let's go ahead and connect it. All right. And let's make sure that the IP address didn't change. Didn't. Good. Now I'll see if I can ping it. They're on the, should be on the same network now. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. All right. So we've got it. Both machines on the same network. They're talking to each other. We're going to try to make a TCP connection. Okay. Between these two systems. First of all, let's scan it and see what ports are open. That way we can kind of determine what ports we want to mess with here. So let's go and do nmap -st and 192.168 100 102. All right, do a quick nmap scan. We got a bunch of ports open. All right. So we've got port 22, 80, 139, 143, 443. There's no port 80 open on that system. 445, 5001, 8080. That machine's using 8080 for HTTP. All right. So what we can do is to do what's called a banner grab. A banner grab is what Shodan does. We've all probably seen Shodan. I'll quickly show you Shodan just to give you some idea what we're trying to do here. First of all, I'm going to go do banner grab. We're going to use, let's go Telnet to port 22. Oh, sudo Telnet. Okay. Let's do netcat then. Sudo netcat 22. No ports to connect to. Oh, my bad. I'm not giving it the IP address. All right, I'm just giving it the port instead of the 168, 100, 102. There we go. Third time's the charm. Okay. So what this does is that basically Netcat NC simply makes a simple TCP connection to this IP address and this port. And when we make that connection, right, the system we've connected to responds with its banner. So it says, okay, this is SSH 2.0 OpenSSH 5.3 and Debian Ubuntu. That's the banner. Now, this is what Shodan and a number of other systems do to be able to gather information about IP addresses around the world. Let's go ahead and take a look at Shodan quickly, because that's what we're trying to, essentially we're trying to create a simple Shodan. All right, let's go Shodan IO. That's Shodan. Hopefully you're familiar with it. All right, so we can go to any IP address and be able to, let's go here, I'll go explore. You can put in any IP address and find out what's going on that particular IP address. Anybody want to throw in an IP address for me? or search for, say, Cisco, right? And it'll show me every system in the world, okay, where there is Cisco in the banner right there. 6 million, okay, 6 million systems. Surprisingly, Argentina has the highest number, okay. Bunch of 401 unauthorized, but it still gives me, even though it's unauthorized, it's still giving me its banner, okay. It's telling me what the manufacturer behind that port is, all right? And that's what we want to do. That's what we're going to be creating with a simple Python socket connection and then grabbing that banner and displaying it, okay? That's our goal here. So let's go ahead and take our second break, and we'll come back and do some more Python basics for hackers and trying to create what's called a banner grabbing tool. All right, just going in and grabbing essentially, what we see right here of each of the ports. All right, you're off for 15. Come back at about 49 minutes after the hour, and we'll continue with writing the script. See you then. Okay, we're back. Now, we left off, we were working on a new script, okay, a banner grabbing script. But one of the things we haven't done yet is to look at another type of control statement called the for loop. So let's do that because we're going to need that to be able to create our banner grab. All right. Before we do that, let's just check to see if there's any other of these. Oh yeah, there's port 80 there. Why did I not see that the first time? There's port 80 there. Let's go see if we can do a banner grab on port 80. Go sudo. So just basically, these are manual banner grabs. This is what Shodan does automatically, and just takes all that information that it gets in these banners like this here, and then puts it into a database and indexes them. All right, and that's what we're doing. Okay, and then to do a banner grab on HTTP, we've got to go put in head HTTP 10. It dropped. There it goes. No, we didn't get anything. Let's try again. 80 and go head space / HTTP 1.0. It's dropping the connection. Right, HTTP 1.0 / head. Looks like we got it here. Yeah, basically it's showing me the index. We don't have the, doesn't look like the server is, oh yeah, here we go. Got it right here. Apache 2.4, Ubuntu. All right, that's our banner right there from port 80. Got it. All right, so that's what we're trying to get for each of the ports. All right, we got port 80 successfully. We got port 22. What other ones are open there? There's HTTPS, and there's a proxy at 8080. In any case, we're going to go ahead and see if we can do a banner grab on those. But before we do that, right, I got to show you one thing. Okay, I'm going to start a new, and that's the for loop. All right, we're going to create a for loop, and the for loop will keep on doing something for a specified period of time, right? So for instance, we could go ahead and do an import of the random module, right? That just generates random numbers. And then we can use a for loop, say for I, okay, in range to 100, all right? And then just go ahead and print random. In this case, we're going to use a random integer. We're asking for random integers between 1 and 20. 20, not 29. All right, so this is going to import the random module. Go ahead and print from I in a range up to 100. Okay, just keep on printing it up to 100. Print using a random, the random integers, okay, between 1 and 20. Let's go ahead and save this as, we'll call it the random script py. All right, for I in range. So basically, what we're asking to do is just keep on going from 100 times, right? For I in a range to 100, print the random integer between 1 and 20. Let's go ahead and execute this. We got to, first of all, we're going to have to, once again, change its permissions. Sudo change mod. Let's go 755. And this one is called random script py. Okay. Now let's go ahead and go Python 3 to random script py. And it should, if you don't have any syntax errors, go ahead and print out random errors between 1, I think we said 1 and 20, 100 times. And it comes back and tells me, oh, in line 6, there's a problem. Okay, line 6. There is no line 6. My parentheses is a problem. That's the problem. Lack of parentheses. So I didn't match up my parentheses. Here they are. And then there's this open and close. There we go. All right, that should do it. So notice what it did is that it didn't see the closing parentheses, so it went on to the next line. It says line 6. It was the error message when it really basically it just went. It didn't have anything to close line 5, so it went to line 6 and there's nothing there. Let's go ahead and save it. Let's try running it again. I'm seeing that the video is lagging a little bit, so I'm going to pause here a bit. Okay. Looks like our connection has slowed down. There we go. Looks like it's caught up now. Let's go ahead and try running it. Has no, says the module random has no attribute ran int. Well, let's go see what's the problem here. Okay. Python. Let's see if we can't figure out random module and see what it may have changed. All right, here's Python random Python random module. Let's see. All right. And this is, this is what you would do, and it's kind of. Ow says it's rand int. Ah, okay. I left off the D. Good, thank you. All right. That's what That's what we need to do is just go and look at the module, look at the attributes to it. Here's the rand int right there. All right, and I just left off the D. Let's go ahead and fix it. Rand int. Let's save it and try again. There we go. So what we've done is just use a for loop to perform an action, up to a limited number of times. Okay. In this case, we set it at 100. Okay, we could set it at any particular number of how many times we want a particular group of code to be executed. All right. So we could go back there and change, say, make it 20. And then save it. And now it'll just run through it 20 times. And this is one more of those control statements. All right, there's 20 of them. All right. Let's look a little further at the random generator. Okay. So here's random int, returns a random integer. Get rand bits returns a non-negative Python integer with k random bits. Okay. This method is supplied by the Mersenne twister generator. All right. So you can see some of the other attributes of random. So here, when we just use the random, okay, we returns the next random floating point number in the range between 0.0 and 1. All right, this is probably the most common use of random. Okay, it allows us to go ahead and add some random numbers in a particular script. Let's go ahead and change it. All right. Let's make sure my syntax is correct. It should be random with just the. And let's take out the like that. And now let's save it. If you need to enter some randomness in a particular function, this is the way you do it. And you can see that it enters a variety of random numbers between 0, 0 and 1. All right. So lots of different things we can use that for. I have got 7 p.m. UTC. We've been at this for 3 hours. Let's go ahead and let's stop there for today. We'll come back tomorrow and we'll work on our banner grabbing tool, as well as we're going to work on a tool that allows us to pull information out of any browser that comes to our web server. We'll look at an FTP cracking tool tomorrow. I think that's probably all we can get done tomorrow. So we got some interesting tools that have some cyber security hacking application. So we'll look at banner grabbing, which is kind of a recon tool, very similar to Shodan. We'll look at a tool that will gather passive operating system information about anybody who comes to our website. And we'll look at an FTP cracking tool tomorrow. Well, then on day 3, we'll look at Scapy, okay, and the power Scapy has for us in being able to sniff data on the wire and put it into a PCAP format. And once it's into a PCAP format, then we can go ahead and manipulate it. Okay. Thank you all for coming. It's been good, and I will see you tomorrow, same time, 4 p.m. UTC. Signing off. And tomorrow will be a key day. We got some basics done today. All right. We have a basics of how to write a script, and we're going to use those basics in some cybersecurity applications tomorrow. I'll see you then. Bye bye.